Okay, okay.
Hello, guests, and we actually want to know your experiences about participating in hackathons, advocating for them, and like tips or inspiration. You've been an inspiration for all of us.
So, hi everybody. Thanks, Vaishnavi, for introducing me. I think there might be some people who might be doing hackathons for the first time, right? I will definitely touch that point there. But for the time being, right, I just want to quickly introduce you myself. Hi, folks. Again, I'm Vanshika. I belong from a non-technical background. That's something that a lot of people don't know. So when I say non-technical background, that means I am purely from commerce without maths, and I did coding, or you could say, I've been in tech for quite some time now, and I've been working in open source and supporting startups. So yeah, all those things are there definitely. And in my starting career, which is specifically in open source ecosystem, I was a DevRel and community manager for one of this company, and I had a lot of these good opportunities to contribute into multiple hackathons and other things. So one of them which I was part of was Hacktoberfest, which is actually it's like a mini festival of open source where you contribute, you collaborate, and you have first time issues, right? So I think I did that last year itself. So I'm not sure if anyone knows about Vineet Shadio, but this person is a guitar field star of India. So we had a team of people, where we were trying to focus on how Hacktoberfest can be taken to a larger level. So if you personally ask me if I have participated in a hackathon, not really from a team aspect, like you actually build something and all, but I have led multiple hackathons, and I've mentored people within that, and organized also, you can say. So it's been on that side, and there are a few things that I've always noticed, and I feel that that's something I can probably bring here, because you all are going to participate in the hackathon by BlueLearn, and I definitely wish you all the best for that. But what are the few things that you have to keep in your mind is so that you can make the most out of this hackathon, which is what our topic for today is as well, right? So number one, the very important thing to understand about hackathons is that the sole reason why you participate in that is not going to be for winning, but for learning, right? What hackathons give you is number one, because it is limited. You have some specific requirements, and you have some specific time that is allotted to you, and that is a sort of something which is going to teach you a lot of skills apart from coding and all. So that is one of the important thing to understand, that um, choose your members wisely, right? If you are in getting into your comfort zone, I would highly recommend you to try something different, or collaborate outside your comfort zone. So let's say now you're going to participate in the community, right? So you can form multiple teams in the channels. Like you can always mention that I would like to, this is the idea, and just see which kind of members would be invested in that idea, because you don't have to build something that is going to win. You have to build something where there's an actual problem statement, and your product or whatever you're planning to build, right, is going to be a probable solution. Probably not very close enough, but yeah, that is the entire agenda. So winning hackathon is something which is based on a lot of factors. Is it anyone saying anything? Okay, probably. Okay, never mind. So yeah, as I was saying, right? You have to pick your members very wisely, and that means that you have to step out of your comfort zone. If any one of you have already participated in previous hackathons, try out new members, right? And secondly, focus on problem statement, and then think of a solution. Design thinking and process is something that I have been working for a good time now as a product manager, and that is where we try to look upon what is the problem statement and who would be our potential people that will consume our software, right? So that's also a very important thing, that when you build something, don't just say that, okay, I'm just going to build it for this hackathon. You never know that if you're ideating something can actually go to a certain level, and you might end up making it an open source project, and that open source project will end up becoming an organization. Like, really, a lot of open source projects have evolved into, something very great, and now they are adding a lot of value into by integrating in multiple systems. So the entire idea should be that what you can learn from that opportunity. Okay, that's one aspect of it, which is a beginning aspect. Right now, what is coming up when you are doing hackathons, right? Like, when you actually have your team now, you have probably found out what is the problem statement you'll be looking at and how you would be solving about it, right? Know your strength and weaknesses. That's a very important thing. That's just not for hackathons, it's for your life, actually. That if you have a strength, right, use it and understand that if your weaknesses are someone else's strength, then that's a way of understanding that you have a right member in your group. Because if two people have same level of strength, that's fine, but if two people are having same weaknesses, then who is going to solve that problem? That's one thing. So always try to pick your members by the way of understanding how they process problems and how would they like to contribute in that same thing. It is not an individual contribution, it is going to be all together, right? But yeah, if you want to participate individually also, that's another aspect of it. But I think most of the hackathons, they have teams. So yeah, whatever works out best for people, right? So yeah, apart from that, what else you can do to make best out of your hackathons is networking. So I know we have been in online mode for a long time now, and offline hackathon is like something very crazy. Like, you go there and you have a lot of stuff to do, and you get free food, and you have swags, and internet and everything else. But there are still hackathons that happen online. And based on that, there's one important thing, which is to understand that you have been given a global chance to connect with a lot of people, right? Right now, you are part of a BlueLearn Discord channel, and that means that you are networking. If people think that they're only to consume, then it's going to be a very hard, or I should say, you're not going to make the best out of this community as well. If you're not giving back something, then you're probably missing out on what community is, right? So it's very important to network. And then also, what second good thing about hackathons is that you maybe end up finding few people who will be your mentors. So I've always believed that mentorship is important aspect of every other uh, life chapter, right? And if you're having hackathons, having a mentor assigned to it. So what happened in Hacktoberfest is we had our entire community of people joining and finding their members and all those things, and picking the first time issues and other stuff. But we were assigned as mentors. There were like 25 to 30 people of us specifically mentoring multiple teams. So I'm not sure if that's happening right now, but like, if any one of you who is not going to participate in a hackathon, but you feel that you can probably mentor them, that's also a way of your contribution to the community and to the people. So you can mentor people, you can tell them that if you're not able to solve any technical or non-technical issues, they can come to you. And that's also to learn how would you mentor people. So maybe today you are probably participating for the first time, and the second time this happens again, you are mentoring someone to build something really great within that hackathon. So network with people. If you do not want to participate, you can mentor people. You feel free to take initiative. A very important aspect of community is you have to take initiative. So whether it's an event, whether it's hackathons, right, whether it's any other community things, the more you put down your initiatives, you take up initiative, the more it is going to benefit you later. And that's something that I cannot explain, like what exact benefits would come up to you. But here's the thing, you never know which people are watching you, what you are doing in public. And if you're doing good things in community, you will always get something in return. So maybe you might get an opportunity to work with a company, or you might get an opportunity to mentor some good people, and you might even end up finding some good friends here, right? So I mean, like, definitely hackathons are one great way to network, to understand, and the part where it begins showcasing, right? When you see what other people have built, that opens up your, entire way of thinking towards problem. So, I mean, whenever Blue Learns announce the problem statement, I would be looking so forward to see what people create and how do they actively, participate in the hackathons. But it's going to be a really really good thing if you understand that you get the right mentors and you get the right people out there, and there's definitely something to learn for that. Apart from that, okay, what else you can do? So also, so people participate in hackathons to get t-shirts and swags and everything, right? But I remember, this is my personal experience when we were leading Hacktoberfest. uh, there were a few people who would fill up these first time issues and fill up the requirements in order to get a t-shirt. So don't let swags be your motivation. It is an award to what you contribute for the community. So if whatever there's going to be, you'll be getting in return, right? And this does not apply to just one hackathon that you're doing with BlueLearn. It applies everywhere outside also. And multiple communities have different way of awarding their community members. So never ever think that if you get the t-shirts, you can show it off to your friends or show it on the social media, and that's very cool, right? Because the entire thing is about learning. And on top of that, if you have your t-shirts and all, then it looks even better. So always keep that in mind. Another thing that I would like to point out here is that when you start building your application, right, have your prototype set first. Use Figma so that you don't waste up time on coding a lot of things and then finding out that that's not how it's supposed to work. So feature is something that your backend team would be coding, but your front end team, if you have like 4 or 6 people in in your entire team, there could be one person who could figure out the design aspect. So you collect the problem statements, you collect how would you like to present that on the screen, and then you create mock-ups for that. So when you have your mock-ups, or you have your like Figma sort of things, right? The best part would be that you would not waste time in coding something or some kind of a feature visually, because you have already got your design sorted. So never ever start coding right away because you do not have design in your head. And that's why tools like Figma are there so that you can always have a mock-ups in front of you and you code accordingly. And that's something that's even followed by a lot of other companies. When they are building tools, they'll always have some decks and they will have some slides to show, and based on that the front end engineer or whatever the full stack engineer, whoever is coding for that, they will always take care of it, right? So yeah, I'm gonna mention other points later, but I would like the people to ask whatever the questions are there, because I want to keep it interactive. This topic is something that I should say it's like more of a tip based topic. Like, there is no certain roadmap to win a hackathon, but there are certain things that you can take care of which will increase the proximity for you to win, right? So that's another set of topic. But yeah, I would like to hear from the audience if there are questions, or what if there's something that they would like to ask from me. So yeah, I'm opening the stage for a small like a Q&A sort of thing, where you can introduce yourself and you can ask whatever your questions are related to this.
Thank you, Vanshika. That was definitely insightful and informative. Does anyone in the VC want to unmute themselves, or we have questions in the chat as well? Okay, no one. So, Vanshika, there's one untying scroll. Are you trying to speak something?
ఇలా వచ్చేసి
Yeah. So, Vanshika, there's one question in the chat that
Yeah.
like they did not understand what you were trying to say about using Figma for hackathons. Could you like explain
Okay.
what is the importance of prototyping first before like completely coding and how Figma helps it?
యా
Okay, sure. So I think let me just go to the chat. Okay, it's Chinmay. Okay, thank you for the question though. So prototype or whatever mockups you can call, right? What happens in Figma is that you have certain design layers and you have certain assets that you can use. You what you do is you upload all those assets, which is like the icons, the button box, how it would show if you click on
మ్యాన్
certain thing,
చోద్ 25,000
and what would happen what happens that when you will have those things in front of you, it will become easier for you to code that thing. Especially for your front-end engineer or the developer, it's going to be easier. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Figma is one of this tool which is like sort of free, and you can always create wireframes and other type of mockups, and you can collaborate with your team as well. So like if people want to just come in, check out what you're creating exactly, and they can also change certain button size, fonts, all those things. Right? I believe. See, you can build a feature if you know the algorithm, or like you know how it is going to be built from the backend aspect. So let's say if you want to be like, okay, if I create certain submit button, or if I create submit some sort of something, right? And that is what is going to trigger as an action. That is possible for you for someone to build, but when it comes to front end, you cannot always find people who will have this design things in their head. So what happens is that if you know a person or someone who is understanding the usage of Figma and you have your requirements written down, then you can always make a design out of it, show to it to your team, and be like, okay, what are the new things that we can implement before you start coding? So you'll not waste time on coding, you'll not waste time on thinking and coding. So both the things. I hope this answers your question.
We also have questions from our side as well. There's one like most of the members in the community, Blue Sprint will be their first hackathon. So, do you remember what your
Yeah.
first hackathon was and how was the experience? Was it thrilling, stressful?
Yeah, so for me, my first hackathon was definitely Hacktoberfest, and why? Because it was very, first timer user friendly. So we made sure. So it was like I was participating in that, and then it was also helping the organizing team to mentor other people as well. So my best I think experience would have been, so people would there were certain people who would always submit certain issues which were not exactly issues. Like for example, in a documentation, if there's a spelling error, they will be like, okay, I'm going to count that as one of the issue. They will just fork the repo and make it an issue out of it, and be ask us to deploy it to the main branch. So that was one thing. So like never do those sort of things if you are into a public hackathon and you're given a repositories, multiple repositories that you can contribute to, and like make sure that your issue is like at least acceptable. So there are guidelines. I think even BlueLearn would have their own guidelines when you're submitting your projects and you're doing your projects. So always take care of those guidelines, because if you miss out on those, that might kind of push you. Even if you have like an amazing project, let's say, that kind of might push you back, and you might not be able to win it, or you might not be able to stand in a good position. Again, as I said, it's not about winning the hackathons, but there are a few things that you can take care of when you are building something. So it's always a healthy practice to take care of guidelines, because when you will go further in your life and you start you start working in an organization or like whatever company, right? They will also have certain things put down in front of you, and if you do not fulfill that, then it can create a problem. Or if you have a GitHub repository to take care of, and you mess up something there, it's going to be publicly open, so it can completely destroy a lot of other code structures. So that's why it's very important to make sure that you build this habit, that whatever set of guidelines is there, you follow that. I think someone just wrote, Cyrus, do you mean code of conduct? Yeah, you can call it code of conduct, definitely. We also call community guidelines because on GitHub we put it like that. But you can call code of conduct depending on whatever word you would like to go ahead with. I think there is another tiny scroll. So I think I don't know it's he or she, but I'm gonna read it like, "Hi, I wanted to ask a question. So you are from a commerce background and you're learning Java. How did okay? And you're asking how did I got started and right? Okay, so you started off with Java. That's also fine. The only difference is that in Java you'll have to compile your code, so that's why I never went ahead with Java first. I chose Python because that was slightly easier to understand, data structures and understanding how a lot of other libraries work. So that's why I picked up Python. And once I had the basic understanding of how Python works and how certain libraries like Pandas, NumPy, there was Matplotlib for visualization, how those things work, I then shifted to Java so that we made slightly easier to understand. Again, there are a lot of logical things that will match between Java, JavaScript, Python, all three, right? But the way you write the code is going to be completely different from all these things. So yeah, for me it was like that. And from Python, I went on learning databases, and post that I was learning front end. So my journey began from learning back end and then going to front end technology. And then the third part was learning DevOps. And currently I am involved in DevSecOps, which is like developer security operations. So that's I'm building an open source project under that same category, which is Boxy HQ. I'm not sure how many people are attached to my Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever. I'll drop my links here. You can connect with me. And if there are a few things that you would like to ask also apart from hackathons into open source and other project level things, you can always tag me in public. Why? Because if you ask the question in public, I'll be able to answer it publicly and that might help out other person, right? So that's why I would recommend that. So yeah, Java is also fine, but you might find it difficult to compile every code then and now. So that's one thing. Okay. What else? Akash is asking for LinkedIn. I'll drop my LinkedIn. Let me see if there's any other question.
I've got
Uh,
one. Yeah.
like, have you ever experienced any like solo developing? Like, have you worked in team or in solo, like in hackathons? Or can you give some tips for us, solo developer in
Okay.
hackathons?
I have not. Yeah, no, I have not ever worked solely in hackathons. But see, again, it's a personal choice, number one. But the most important thing about hackathon for me was to understand that how many skill sets do I have and how can I explore being in a part of team, right? Decision making is one of the skill which is very important when you're part of an organization, and in hackathons you have to practice it every hour, because not all four or six of you will have the same concept or same thought process. So how do you come on a common ground is very important. When you are working solely, you might be okay, you might know all the tech stack, and that might feel slightly more powerful, that okay, I can code alone, and I can debug it, I can design the stuff, whatever. But in the end, when it comes to making decisions, you are the only person who is making decision. And you might kind of, you will miss out onto certain few good points. If you will have a team, right, you never know what you will learn from them. So that's why I recommend people to always have like a team of at least two or three. Two is also fine, by because there is something called pair programming. So you can practice pair programming where you switch your roles and you code on certain parts, and then you again switch and you become a tester or debugger amongst yourself. But yeah, when you code alone, yeah, you code always alone only, right? So why would you do a hackathon? So that's like a thought process for me. So for me, I've never done that. But if you would ask, should you do it or not? It's your personal choice. But if you would have a team, if you find the right team, then I think you can do it with your group members and you can learn from it. And because it's your first hackathon, don't expect to win. I'll say it. You should always have your expectations set in a proper way. So people are like always expecting, I'm going to participate in hackathon and I'm going to win it. There's one thing you call manifestation, and that's good thing, but it comes over time. So when you're doing it for the first time, always know this thing that you might or might not win, and either way, you're going to learn, right? So from that aspect, just start creating the project and start working together. And if you don't win in the end, just know that you at least participated in your first hackathon, and now when you will be participating in your second one, you will probably a better version of yourself in that one, right? So that is why I would highly recommend you to have a team. If you don't find one, then you can go alone and at least experience how the entire thing works out. Anyone else in the audience who would like to ask any question?
Vanshika, before we move to the chat questions, I would also like to ask,
Yeah.
like, since mostly everyone will be working in teams, so
Yeah.
how do like any advices on managing time? What happens is before starting the hackathon, we come up with 10 features, and by the end of them, it's like everything's a big mess up. The demo video is not done yet, the documentation is left. So how to make sure that everything is done properly and on time?
Okay, so basically, time management in hackathons, definitely a good one. So, again, you know what? When you decide on teams, I think you might still have few hours in your hand. If you have planned everything in advance, this will save up slight time in your hand. Okay, so you pick up your team when let me plan it out for you guys. What happens is the hackathon is, let's say, announced, right? So you know that by these many hours the hackathons will start off. So always use that number of hours which is there in your hand before the actual hackathons begin, where you start brainstorming and you focus on the parts that you do not need to touch upon until and unless you are left with some time in the end. So when you explore the features you would like to build, you understand the stack and you see, okay, what are the few things we can do? So you might even have 3-4 hours in your hand, but you have planned out few things and you'll understand when 4 or 5 of you will sit down together that there are few things you don't really have to build or you don't have to touch upon. It's like an add-on which someone can probably build and can be valuable in their own other applications. But for you guys, what is the main feature or what is the main solution that you're building, right? So focus on that part. And if still you feel that there are a lot of features that you would have to include, then divide those things amongst yourself beforehand. Don't wait for the hackathon to begin so that you can come together, sit down, and then divide things between yourself. When the hackathon begins, that means that you start coding right away, and you're together, and howsoever it is being conducted, like it is a video call thing. Like MLH has a different way of doing it, and then Hacktoberfest is a different way of doing it. So whatever the way it will be prescribed, you do it, but don't waste time on talking a lot that time, because what would happen is that your brain is stressed that your time is running out, so you will not be able to think in a proper way. So that's my recommendation. Apart from that, time management is, again, it's a skill. The better you divide it amongst yourselves and you pick on the things and pick up on the issues, the better it will be for you. So yeah, I mean, that's my take over that.
Also, when it comes to building projects in a short span of time, like 36 hours for the blue sprint, should we focus on the quality or the quantity?
Quality over quantity, definitely. I'll tell you folks, something. So I'm not sure how many people of you are exploring Web3, but I am currently right now. I'm not building one any kind of project, but I've been supporting other projects. And there was the conference that happened. I know, I'm not sure again if anyone has heard about it, but this happened in just same month, and it was in August mid. And there is this NFT ticketing system. So they have built a very amazing system. I'm gonna drop a link of that same. I think it's Ticket.io. So if you check those platform out, right, what they're doing is they're building a complete NFT based ticketing system, and it's very easy. You do not have to put a lot of technical things in there, and just straight away it takes you usually 2 minutes to get your own NFT ticket. I'm not going to go in a technical term because I'm not sure how many people of you are involved there. So the idea is that whatever your solution is, it is so easy to understand and it is so easy to incorporate as an experience. So UI is one thing, you can always be very great on UI part, but UX is something you have to always focus upon. If you put too many, if you're collecting data of, let's say, a user, because it's a sign up page, you might lose some of your users there itself. They will not be interested to go on and check out your project. So that's just example, but what I'm trying to say here is that make sure that whatever things you're building, that's of good quality, even if it's a normal looking UI, right? I can't recall any application right now who has this very simple UI but is doing amazing thing and people still use it. But again, the idea is that as much as you can bring a great experience and you can bring a really great value, and even if you have a simple UI and you do not have a lot of code structure. So what happens in open source is that there are certain things, certain APIs, certain things that is already available. So you can always, you call them boilerplates also, some of these. So you get use boilerplates and you change certain things in there according to your application, and then you use them. That is going to save up your time, and that is also something that's open source, so you can use it. So if it is ethical in terms of this particular hackathon, let's say if it is mentioned that you can use open source projects only in limited amount, right, to build a certain API structure or something like that, then use that thing, right? Don't be like, oh no, I'm going to do it from the very start and I'm going to build it from the scratch. You're going to waste time in a lot of other things. So focus on the feature and focus on the quality of the same. Don't go on heavy coding in order to make it look huge.
And we've got one more question for you in the chat. Akashdeep Srivastava is asking, what is a tech evangelist? I've never heard of this word. What is the basic role you play in general? I'm just curious.
Okay. So tech evangelist basically stands for technology evangelist, which means there's a evangelism is basically practicing advocacy, okay, practicing developer relations, but on a broader sense. You might have heard terms like DevRel, developer advocate, right? So I am a DevRel engineer right now at one of this open source company, and then I'm also working on a startup sort of things over there. I handle the product. So I am kind of involved into multiple technology and I evangelize about it, which means I kind of I'm an ambassador for them, okay, and I also try to collaborate with them, mentor people. So evangelism is a term, and there are a lot of responsibilities that is attached to that. So you mentor people, you create content, you create awareness about certain projects, you are ambassador of certain technologies and certain communities, right? So for me, it is technology evangelist. Why? Because I support multiple things. I am supporting Web 2, Web 3, open source, D apps, fintech, a lot of things. So that's why it's like a common term. But if you ask me from what I'm doing currently, I am a product advocate and manager, and I'm also a DevRel engineer. So it's like two things apart. But apart from that, I do a lot of community stuff too. So I hope that answers your question.
And while building these projects in hackathons, do you suggest using Bootstrap or any other thing, no code, or like anything?
Okay. No code. See, I would not prefer you to go ahead with no code. Why? Because then it changes how your hackathon is like. I mean, you're supposed to code few things, right? It depends again. If it is a no code based hackathon, like there are certain hackathons which tell you can create a no code product also. So then you can maybe use. But if you are supposedly create something and like code it, so you can do that. But bootstrapping is also something you can do because that still requires coding. It's not like a fully fledged application that you will always have it. You take some pieces of code there and then you integrate in your own code, so you don't have to start off from scratch. So like even VS Code, when you start coding in HTML, I'm giving the basic example for the time being. They have a boilerplate for HTML5. So that means that they already have the tags there, and then you start putting in each tag, like after you're done with your HTML and all that, and you start putting things inside the body and H1, H2, whatever you want to create. So in that sense, what happens is that you at least save up on the time of coding those particular blocks, and you go on with adding the main features of your product. So will not recommend you to go with no code. That's a technology you can practice always on your own, and that's more of a collaborative thing. But you can use Bootstrap code structures in order to save up on time, and if it is ethical enough for your coding process.
Also, I see like many members in the chat are just asking about teams and all. So we do have a team building channel under the Blue Sprint. So you can find yourself, give introductions there as well. And
Yeah, I think there are a few questions. Vaishnavi, can I take them up?
yeah, sure.
So I think Untitled Store again asked what were my sources and websites that I used in order to build my stack or whatever you can say. So I personally love, the W3 school. That's a very good one. And then you have Geeks for Geeks. And I have not watched a lot of YouTube channels, but yeah, there are specific things that I've watched. Not like it's not channel based; it's more about what I want to learn. So if I can find it on YouTube, I'm gonna go to YouTube. There on EDX, you have this thing where you can just audit the course, which means that you can apply for that course and you can just start consuming the the content, but you don't get a certification for that. So I've never paid for getting certification. Now, this brings me to another point that if someone is thinking that you will build a portfolio out of certification, that can be one thing. But you need to always try out those technologies that you have got certification in, because whosoever your recruiter will be, they will ask those questions based on all the certifications you have received. So either you put them down on portfolio or not. If you build something in that particular technology, it is going to be good and beneficial for you. So if someone is taking any kind of certification, always remember to build at least a small project that you can deploy on GitHub, and you can attach a link to it for your portfolio, right? And yeah, I use any resource that makes me feel that it's this good one. I'll highly recommend the people who are in tech to be on Twitter. I know some people might feel that it's a very controversial space to be, but trust me, Twitter has definitely changed the way I've seen tech communities, and there are a lot of people who are going to help you out in public. So you can always ask questions. You can always join Twitter Spaces as well, just like how you have joined Discord, events section. You can always do that also, and there are a lot of resources out there. So people share a lot of free design resources and then free technical resources. Cheat sheets are also available on your Twitter, so you can always download them directly in your device, and you can keep those cheat sheets. So Twitter definitely helped me out also to get a lot of resources. They're always bookmarked in my section. So definitely check out that part also. LinkedIn is still getting there. I feel people have not started creating content that often. So some of the things are like very clickbait to me, and some of the things are like very, like I would not like to consume few kind of post. So yeah, that's topic for another thing, that how you can leverage out your LinkedIn, or how you can make the best out of LinkedIn. But yeah, you'll see me creating some kind of a content around open source Web 2 Web 3, because I feel that if you have a platform, you can always share out resources. So use the social media for getting free resources, because there are a ton of them. You don't need to buy Udemy and all those things until you want a certification proper. You can go ahead and do that. But if you just need to grasp knowledge, there is ton of that. Even on Instagram, you'll find a lot of these things. So yeah.
Vanshika, what was one of your core memories from a hackathon?
Core memories from a hackathon. Organizing events. So, there are certain hackathons like Hacktoberfest. We used to tie up with multiple colleges, and we would bring that hackathon happening inside the college. So we did multiple events, and we had this resume building sessions, and couple of personal branding sessions that we did. That was my core memory because I enjoyed those sessions and hearing, and hearing a lot of personal experiences and telling them and guide them. So mentoring and collaborating was something very great that I think experienced. Anyone else who wants to who would like to ask a question? Or I mean, I'm trying to go through the chat section and see uh, this one that needs to be. So I think there's this person called Infected One. I'm not sure if he's still there in the channel, but I think this guy asked he's learning Java and reached till array. So what are the suggestions to learn? So I mean, there are a ton of resources out. You can always check out W3 schools, and if that's not good for you, Geeks for Geeks. I would also like to recommend check out certain repositories which act like a resource. So you can always fork or start them, whatever works best for you. They have a lot of resources, PDFs and YouTube videos and all. They are always mentioned in a proper format. So you can just fork that repository and have like a repository of multiple resources. So maybe check out things like that where you can always go through and visit it in one go. You don't really have to note down every link or like save it in different places because someone has probably recommended, so you can always go through this. I think
Hi.
yes. Hi, who's this? Your voice is breaking for me.
Yes, same.
Is it audio?
Yeah, it's better now, Ritesh.
Yeah.
Beginners. So I just want to learn always and just give the roadmap for it.
Ritesh, you're breaking for us again, I guess. Can you drop the question in your chat section, please? I'll take it up from there. Ritesh, you can drop your message in this. Let me see if there's any other. Okay, Androx asked me. You mentioned DevSecOps in Twitter, so is there any roadmap? No, not really. There is no specific roadmap for it, but what I'll recommend is you go through the basics of DevOps because security is a layer over DevOps. So, matlab, DevSecOps and DevOps is like quite close, but a very different thing. In DevOps, you do not have a security element in it. Security kind of comes after you have deployed your applications and all, and it's a separate procedure altogether. But what happens in DevSecOps is that it becomes part of your developer operations. So before you deploy the application, you go through the entire tech stack and you check for the security issues and you solve them before you deploy it. And you have a dedicated security team within your DevOps team. So the best way to do is like understanding the DevOps segment slightly. So understanding how Kubernetes and clusters and other those things work, microservices work, and then you can there are a ton of resources again available. Maybe I will create a GitHub repository for all these resources. There is no certain roadmap for it, honestly. Like maybe for DevOps you can find roadmap, but for DevSecOps there is no such roadmap because security understanding developer security is a very different aspect and kind of integrated as a shift left trend. So it's better to probably go through a lot of other things. And few things I can say that in DevSecOps, like you have audit logs, you have directory sync, you have SAML SSO, which means SAML is a language, okay? It's around authentication, and SSO stands for single sign-on. So you can probably explore how these few things work. And what I am building in an open source ecosystem with the project name is Boxy HQ. If anyone wants to join that community to understand how DevSecOps work and how we are building something under the same umbrella in open source ecosystem and contribute, feel free to DM me. I will send a Discord link. I'm running the community of developer security operations as well. So I would love to get you there as well. Um, Ritesh's question was, you are a complete beginner, and if I can give you a roadmap, I just answered this thing. Uh, uh, See, I'm not sure how much tech stack as a knowledge you have, but whatever you might know, right? Even the basics of Python or Java, whatever language you have known, you can start contributing from that aspect. Find okay. One thing that a lot of people do is when you are building your team and you have a dedicated channel for that, people like, I'm looking for a front end engineer, I'm looking for a back end engineer. I will highly recommend for the people to talk about what they are good in and just drop it as a message. And the people who would need you at least can just search for those kind of requirements. Let's say if I am good in backend, I'm just gonna say, "Hi, I have experience in backend and I can code in Python." So if someone is looking for a Python backend developer for a hackathon, you can connect with me. So whosoever is going to be looking for you can directly contact you. They don't have to waste their time, and you don't have to waste your time to find the respective groups. So always mention out what you're looking for and what you can offer. Both the things together in a single message. That's the best way to look for members and not create a lot of hassle in the channel as well. Can you describe your workflow for any of your project? I'm not sure what you mean by workflow here, but I am guessing that probably you're asking how the entire project is initiated and it goes to the certain level where it is finally deployed. So I mean, it's a personal experience you might have. Okay, you can probably start off from the front end and then go on a back end, or you can probably have your teams divided between front end and back end, and then you can integrate. You might have someone who is going to integrate that thing. But if you ask me, I believe to have mock-ups, or you can say wireframes of the project that I would be building, and then show that thing to the front end team and get ideas from back end that if they would be able to build these features easily. Because sometimes what happens is that the person might design something in a particular way and that might not be easy for the back end person to code, or maybe they might not know how to initiate that thing. So it's better to always keep them, both of the teams, in loop, back end and front end, whatever design you have created, so they can find the common grounds. And then you can divide the task between yourself, and always have your team, like debug and test out the code before you deploy it properly. So you can divide the repositories or features or whatever certain things, workflows that you have built in within the project, that everyone goes through the entire application at least for once and see how the few things are working out. So that is something I'll recommend. Rahul has asked, I want to do blockchain development and I'm from commerce background. Yes, you can do it. There is a course on EDX. You can audit it for free and you can start blockchain development. I had built a project in crypto. It's a backend, does not have a front end. So please, I don't want to give any kind of false hope here. So don't jump into the front end for blockchain development, right? Focus on the backend part first. That how would you create hash codes or whatever your idea of creating mining, algorithm and all those things are. So in blockchain, which language would you like to go ahead with? Python is something I will recommend. There is Solidity and there are JavaScript and other things, but if you use Python for blockchain development, you can find a lot of videos and other content out there. So make sure you go through the basic one, because Python offers certain libraries that you can initiate your workflow for. And then once you've understood how it's actually working out, then you can move on to the Solidity and other languages. So create a base for everything, and then go ahead with building something like complete Web3 or complete blockchain. Yeah.
Yeah, so suppose I am proficient in Python, but I'm just learning a new programming language. So would you suggest that be a little bit brave and do the project in the new programming language and explore how it works? or just use language that you're comfortable in for the hackathon?
Okay. So what I think is, if you start working from a new language aspect, right? This is two things. Number one, you'll have a stress of knowing this thing that you do not know that language, and you are building it for your or with your team. So whatever issues you might be facing, a lot of time might go in understanding the entire code structure working, and secondly, you finding the solutions on Stack Overflow, and then coming on GitHub and understanding the entire the working of that thing. So when you are in a hackathon, you already have that limited. So don't go ahead with a language which you do not have understanding of at that moment, because your team is dependent on the skills that you have. Each one of us is dependent on each other, and it's a team thing, not an individual thing. So if one person thinks that, okay, I know the entire language and I can do this, it's good thing that you know everything, but you need to make sure that some other people who are there part of your group, they also have certain skills in hand and they get to use their skills also. So if you have typically learned any language in a very new, like it's just been some days or some weeks, and you do not have enough confidence, don't go ahead with that in hackathon. At least what you can do is you can start contributing in open source projects. What will happen is that you will understand yourself that if you're able to contribute in that project, number one, and if you make a mistake, people can point it out that, listen, this is not how the code structure will work. There is a different logic to it. So you can learn from it, and then you can initiate those things in the further contribution. That's why I say that open source is one of the greatest thing to learn and get mentored for. But in hackathons, I will not ask anyone to experiment things, because the only thing you can experiment with is the idea, but not with the language. So yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
So, like you said right now, that time is very much limited in hackathon, and it's for everyone. So, according to you, what
Yes.
a winner team, or what we can say the final ones, does different from the other teams, be it on protocol wise or project wise, presentation wise? What were the main different things they do?
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead with the part where you are confident about what you have built, right? The entire ideation process and then coming out with a solution is one thing, but how do you present your solution is another aspect of it. You might have a solid solution, but you might not be able to present it in front of your judges. So make sure you're confident enough about what you have built. Number two, do the research of your problem statement. Um, Yesterday, I attended a conference about sustainability. I think some people might have heard about Call for Code, which happens by Persistent Systems and IBM, right? So they have this thing where you code and there's a sustainable part added to it. So what the entire idea of the some of the winning teams have been that they always check out how deep that problem statement is and how do they present out the solution as well. Time frame is something why they have given you so that you can run all the sections of your brain, honestly telling, because when you have a lot of time in your hand, like you will be like, okay, you know what, it doesn't matter if I do not code today, I can code it later. But the best thing that hackathons make you do is run your brain like anything and like come out with solutions and come out with whatever problems you might be facing. So that is one thing. So of course every team is going to have that same time, so that kind of eliminates the reason. So no one can say that I got less time or that we did not have enough time. You have to be smart enough in order to complete your project timely. Whatever important, the necessary features which is going to act as a solution should be there. UI, and if someone asks you why UI is so simple, you can always mention that, what, look at what we have built, because the UI can be implemented later. Everyone knows you have a time frame. You cannot focus on the design aspect completely. But if you can offer the solution, then those judges might give you marks. So, like, they judge you for how you have solved the problem and not how your application finally looks like. There might be some weightage to it, definitely, but that is not entirely what hackathon is about. Some days, if someone, let's say, even they have not built a full-fledged project, right? I'm not sure if someone has watched Silicon Valley. That's a show on, I think that's a show that was aired on HBO. But I have watched it and I saw that they had so many features in their systems, and then they deleted the entire files, and they just became about one. They just showed one feature, but it was so perfect that they won that entire TechCrunch hackathon type of thing itself. So that is the idea. Build that, even if it is a one feature, build it so powerful, and be you should be able to explain why you have done that and how and what kind of research was involved. Tell your story through your solution, and when you have the time to speak, 3 5 minutes, whatever is allotted to you, bring it out. If you miss out on the part where you have not talked about your research, where you have not talked about the problems you faced within building that thing, you might miss out onto some brownie points that can make you win. So I hope that answers your question.
Vanshika, so as you know, this is like this whole week was based on the open source theme, and we've got like quite a few sessions conducted in the past. But you mentioned some organizations like MLH before. So can you just give a brief about some good open source programs and how they are like the best opportunities for college students?
So, if I'm not getting wrong, you're asking to mention some of the open source programs out there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are two of them which pays you. Again, the idea. I'm highlighting these two programs first because I think you might, a lot of people might know this thing, but they are not very clear enough that why that program is there. Okay, there is GSOC, that's why Google and is, and also okay, in by Google there are two. There's Google Summer of Docs, which is GCOT, and then there is GSOC, which is Google Summer of Code. So if you are a person who is just starting out in tech and who does not have a lot of knowledge but can handle documentation, you can figure out the Google School of Documentation, this thing. So you at least understand how documentation works out, and then in GSOC you have the code structure, right? And both of these programs pay you. They don't pay you because you are part of program. They pay you for the contribution you have made, and that's their way of incentivizing. So in open source, there are multiple type of incentivizations depending on different type of organization. You will have different level of incentivization. Some people might give you cash. Some people might give you certain other subscription based things and other stuff. Okay. Then your second one is the Outreachy program. That's again a paid one, but that's more specific to the I think girl, women in tech. So I can't like really say that it's for everyone out there. Third is the Hacktoberfest that happens. You usually have, at least you should take 4 issues or like make 4 contributions in open source, and you will be able to make it like your I should say you will be accepted in the Hacktoberfest program. So that is there. What else? There is MLH. MLH does a lot of hackathons, so you can participate in those. They also have fellowship programs in open source, so you can check out those. And that is also a paid program that you can try out. And apart from that, if you want to contribute, I'm not sure about the other open source programs, so I can't like recall them, but you can always find certain GitHub repositories which is completely focused on first timer issues. So these are the issues which is maintained by the community, so that a person who is just coding or who is like contributing in open source for the first time, they can pick those issues and they can solve those. So you can probably check out those. I'm quickly dropping my LinkedIn and my Twitter in order if someone wants to connect. And I hope. Is there any other question, Vash? Maybe I'll just drop my handles for the meantime.
Yeah, so like just to announce that we'll be announcing the problem statement soon. Vinayak will be joining us. So Vanshika, if you're like free after we announce the problem statements, if you're free, then you can like just give quick tips about the problem statements as well.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I'll definitely do that. I think Cyrus has, I think this is the last question, maybe. So I'll answer this one. It's like disturbance from someone's side. Can the moderators please check? Okay, it's all now. Thank you. So Cyrus has asked that you started learning, and okay. So basically, I think the question is around your consistency, right? So there are two things I'll mention out. Number one, being consistent doesn't mean that you code every day on that basis where like, okay, for 2 hours I'm gonna code. Okay, some days your attention span might go to 1 hour, some days your attention span might be just 10 minutes. You might feel tired about coding. So what is consistency? Consistency is not about doing the same thing over and over and over. You divide your task in a proper way. Like always, when you wake up, note down what are the things you will be doing. Okay. And when you start coding, when you are like learning something, you never know how much time it's going to take for you to grasp that logic. If you are learning from the point where you can just get jobs and all, then it's not going to be unless, trust me, I think everyone still uses Google. Like even if the people become software engineers, they're still going to Google how I'm going to solve this issue, right? Even people like those who have gotten job forget sometimes how to solve few things. So when you are still learning and you are like, oh God, I cannot remember how did I solve this particular issue. It is fine that it happens to you, and don't let that thing stop you. There's one thing that stops you, which is a fear of learning something very new, and you might mess up things around, which is okay. You will mess up and you can always ask out for help. And the second thing is that understanding consistency is not about quantity, it's about quality. If you're coding for 10 minutes and it's something that beneficial, you're learning, you learned about a library, let's say, or you even just solved one bug, and you feel that I just cannot go beyond this because I've actually, you know, my brain is tired, let's say it like that. It's fine. You can let yourself take that 10 minutes, focus on that one bug, get it done with it, and move on to your next task. Don't think about it. The more you think, the more burnout you will feel. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. That's a term that happens to people who are just learning out new technologies. For me, I experienced that for like couple of years, especially when pandemic hit. um, I was in college that time, and I used to think that, oh my God, there are so many things happening on Twitter, and people know so much stuff about, there is DevOps, there's this technology, that technology. I don't know anything. And the way I changed my perception about it, that it's okay if you do not have a certain roadmap, if you do not know how to go about it. So what I started doing is I started exploring everything. So when nothing works out for you, know that there's no one going to set a roadmap for you, or there is no one who has written a roadmap for you. I think we should not call that roadmap. We should always call that a resources section where people talk about their experiences. Something that they might have done will not work out for you, and that is going to be okay. You don't have to get depressed about it. So I mean, I was there was this thing that used to happen with me where I would constantly think that I can never make it, right? So when I could not find a solution, I started building that solution. That okay, it's okay if I'm not from that background, I will still try out different things. So that is a very important thing to understand. Have that mindset where you are focused upon learning a thing. Consistency just means that every day you at least put down some time to that one task that you have decided, no matter if it is going for 2 hours or if it is going for 10 minutes. As long as you're doing it and as long as you're learning it, it is fine. So I work remotely. Okay, there are days when I'm so tired that I'm not able, and I'm a community person. So I'm supposed to talk to multiple and hundred and thousands of people on everyday basis. But few days my social energy is down. So, but I still consistently practice my community management. I don't see it as a job role. I always see it as a practice. I still practice it, but maybe I will just talk to people for 20 minutes and not for 1 hour, right? So that is a very important thing, that you don't break in between. you continue doing it even though when you feel that okay, maybe I might be doing something wrong or maybe I am tired. So just give yourself that much of break and then start getting back on your track and do those things. So be consistent. That means practice those things that you want to have control over or you want to build your skill set in. It is okay. It is not consistency doesn't have to be driven by time. It has to be driven by the period that you allot to that. So yes, I'm not sure what's happening in the chat, but it's getting better. Cool. I think people are very hyped about the hackathon, and that is good. And whosoever is feeling imposter syndrome, trust me, it happens with the best of us. No matter how much successful, people think that we are successful, but success is a term that is defined for everyone differently. Not everyone will have the same objective in their lives, and what you might success will not be a success for them, right? So best of us feel that imposter syndrome and we are not able to some days keep up with our daily tasks, but we try to still take care of our responsibilities, and that's how we grow. So that's completely fine to feel that way and focus on the learning part and not on the part where you are focusing that okay, am I not being consistent enough or am I doing something wrong? It's okay to feel that way and it's okay to move forward and still do your things. So I think that is going to be my closing remark as well. Even in the hackathons, I'm going to say if that imposter syndrome kicks in, you see your partner coding for like 3 hours and you're not able to code enough, don't look at him. Focus on the part that was allotted to you and how much time is it going to take you to complete that set of tasks. There are few days where the task that I'm not able to do in 2 hours, I'm going to do it in 30 minutes. So those are the days where I'm like, okay, that this task could have been done in such a short time, but because I was not feeling myself, I was not able to do it, and it is okay. The most and trust me, in hackathons, if you get this feeling, you'll have to tell your brain you have limited time. You cannot relax. What you have to do is like let that thing go away and focus on your tasks and have a checklist of those things and get it done with.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Vanshika.
much, Vanshika, for sharing your experiences regarding
Yeah,
hackathons. and
most welcome. I hope that answers questions of the people who are there in the chat. And if there's anything else I can help with, please connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm not a person who's going to be focused on the numbers. Actually, I just do my contribution there. And if people get benefited, they can connect with me. I always say connect and not follow. And if you do not have one, it's fine. You can ping me on the allotted whatever channel is there for getting mentored or getting help. You can tag me there, and I'll get back to the questions or to the problems that you might be facing. So yes, thank you so much again to the entire BlueLearn community. It was definitely a very good topic. And apart from that, I wish all the very best to the people who will be participating for the hackathons. May you learn, and if you learn and you're doing great, may you also win, right? And the people who will not win, may you just get a very good experience out of this and find some really good network and good mentors. And whenever you participate for the second time, may you do even better. So with that, I'll just like to close the session. I think it was really a good one, and I did not thought that this is going to last for this long. But yeah, I'm glad. I will definitely love to do more sessions and collaborate with BlueLearn. So thank you so much again for the opportunity, and thank you people for listening me for so long and bearing with everything. But all the very best for your hackathon, and hope you all have a lot of fun while you build your solutions.
Thank you so much, Vanshika. It was really glad to have you here, and we really enjoyed the session. And yes, can you just share the link of your Twitter account?
Vaishnavi, you can take over.
Am I audible?
Can anyone hear Vinayak?
Wait, if I'm audible or not, can you just type yes in the chat if I'm audible? Okay, I'm audible. So yeah. Okay. Nice. Oh, see. So yeah. So Vanshika has shared her experiences regarding hackathon and all that stuff. She has shared the tips and to participate, to how you can win the hackathons and all, how you can get best out of the hackathons. And I hope like your most of the questions has been answered by Vanshika. So now we are starting the one of the most awaited event of this open source week, that is that is blue sprint. So yes, so we will be releasing the problem statements now. Vaishnavi, can you just share the screen? So those who are here, if your team members are not on the server, so I will suggest you all to ask them to join the server and join the C, so that your all doubts can be cleared. So yeah, Vaishnavi, can you share your screen?
Can you see it, Vinayak?
Just wait a second. Everyone can just type yes in the chat if you can see the screen of Vaishnavi.